Hi there, it's Ricky from Moshville Times here once again. I'm delighted to welcome Manchester-based band Clashmute. Now, Clashmute play metalcore, but they also have touches of thrash and maybe a wee smidgen of death as well. But I think with Ryan, I think I'm going to pick on Ryan because he's not here with us at the moment, but he brings in his glam metal influences into the band as well. So, no, I'm only kidding.
100%. 100%.
100%.
So how are you guys doing? How have you been since lockdown? Everybody been safe and everything like that? All your friends and family are all okay?
Yeah, just about.
Yeah, I mean, up and down, I think, like most other people, but we're getting through it together. So
yeah, that seems to be the general theme of it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Your jobs and everything okay? Your jobs and everything okay?
Yeah, I'm a key worker, so not affected. And then I think Jordan works at home, don't you, mate?
I've been working at home since lockdown and probably for the foreseeable now. So that's a bit of a weird kind of structural change to do with it. So
yeah, Sam's never had a job in his life, I don't think.
Yeah, I'm still in uni, so it's not a massive change for me. I'm used to Zooms and all this kind of thing. So
you're £9,000 a year for it, aren't you?
Yeah, £9,000 a year to have minimal contact hours, but what can you do?
Yeah. So just to introduce everybody to the band, we've got Jordan, the bassist, we've got Patrick, one of the guitarists, and we've also got the drummer, Sam. So I was delighted to meet you guys. So with the lockdown then, and with your debut EP Transitions being released in 2019, have you used this time constructively and written more songs?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd say we've written a few more songs. We've been released, I think just before the start of lockdown, we've been released a new song called Cut Loose, which released a music video for, and it's just kind of sat there, to be fair, because we've been locked down. Yeah. So we just got in before the first lockdown.
Yeah.
So and then we went and wrote a couple of songs kind of in the summer when we were able to sort of access the practice room as well. So that was kind of really good to kind of get back at it. Kind of let the creative juices flow a little bit.
So when was the actual last time that you were together as a band?
Wednesday. Our practice space, we're allowed to practice in it. It's all good. We're not doing dodgy meetings. It's the space is allowed to stay open. It's Brunswick Mill Studios. So we've been able to not the entire time since last March, but for fairly significant amount of time between last March and now. Sorry, we've been able to still access that space. Obviously in a COVID secure way with distancing and masks on, etc. But
yeah, not the same. But
no, it's not. It's not quite the same, but it's there.
Yeah. So it's not a case of like you're communicating your ideas through the internet and using laptops and stuff.
Oh no, we're absolutely like me and the other guitarists. We spend most of our free time sending each other terrible riffs just to try and bounce some ideas off, and then we end up sending them all to Sam, who will tell us like they're absolutely. I don't know if we can swear or not. Yes, so if I swear, yeah, they're absolutely shit. So he just comes back with us and says which bits to keep and.
Pat likes to come into the practice room with like a different song every week. Basically, it's become like a bit of a running joke in the band where like if we play a riff for more than like 2 weeks, then Pat goes off it and he's sick of it. And he wants
don't like it anymore. Gotta get rid of it and make something new. That's why like all of our best songs have been made in about 2 weeks. That is the
true.
Yeah.
So Sam, is Patrick that guy that sends you a riff at 4 o'clock in the morning and stuff?
Oh yeah, in fact that happened. Well, I don't know if it's 4 o'clock in the morning, but yeah, I get random little videos of him twiddling his guitar like pretty much every week at the minute. Yeah, so that's
that's good. That's good stuff. So you've obviously been in the practice room and stuff like that, and you've written more songs, so that's good. So for those that are new to the band, then how would you say it compares to your early material? And do you think you've now found the sound that you've been looking for with this new material?
I think mainly because of the way that we ourselves responded to the EP, which was we just didn't like it. We thought we wanted to try and make it heavier. We did like the kind of aspects of the music. We love the aspects of the drums. We wanted to move a little bit more, I think, nu metal, I'd say, and a little bit heavier more than anything.
Yeah. There's more kind of like modern influences, I think, in comparison as well in terms of metalcore, whereas the EP is kind of, I think it's a good sort of example of where we were as a band when that was written, and it's to me that has almost the more kind of like Killswitch Engage kind of Bullet My Valentine kind of influences, whereas this kind of takes influence from Pat, this is the moment you jump in with a couple of modern metalcore bands that I don't actually listen to.
Mine's got blank, mate, so absolutely honest. But yeah, it is a sort of I like it. It's more of a progression of where we find ourselves comfortable, but it's not really as fancy as it sounds. We just kind of like mesh as much music that we like that we play. Like we just come up with riffs and transitions. We kind of shove them together and hope it works, and it makes our sound, and we like it. So that's the main bit for us.
I think the one thing which is consistent is that the song is still kind of written in with playing in a live environment, which I think has always kind of been a major influence on our writing. So that's kind of still there. It's just kind of what you can kind of branch off around that, really, and trying different things and different ways of kind of interacting with the crowd a little bit, finding new ways for them to beat the shit out of each other while you play opens, basically.
Cool. Sam, what were you going to say there? I thought so. You were going to say something.
Yeah. So I was just going to say, I mean, it kind of helps that, as you can probably tell, we all have very different influences and we all listen to different things. So, when we come together, our songwriting is very much like it's a collaborative thing. We'll bounce stuff back and forth between us. And I think it helps, the amount of different influences, that get thrown into the pot. What comes out as Clashmute still ends up sounding like Clashmute on the newer songs. So it's still got that kind of, mixture between, the breakdowns and the melodic guitar sections or whatever. It's got that core Clashmute. I agree, it's definitely getting heavier, I think, is the general trend.
Well, see, to be honest with you, I'm more of a death metal fan than anything else. So the heavier you get, the more I'm going to like you. So,
nice.
So, do you have plans to release a video to coincide with the EP or whatever it is that you're going to be doing, or is Kevin putting those plans?
Yeah, we have got something in line. Because we've made the video. We have made the video. Let's confirm it. Ryan's not here. We can tell him. We can say whatever we want, really, can't we? Yeah, we have got something in line. Everything's still in processing. If that's the term. Don't know.
Yeah. Everything's sort of tracked, but things are still, with the EP and with the video, are still sort of being mixed, mastered, edited, etc. Is the best way of putting it. It's still kind of at the stage where things can, like, different ideas can be kind of input, but the kind of the difficult part really of sort of recording and doing that sort of thing over the sort of last few months is kind of being able to find a time when you can do it. And you can do it in a safe way, and that's what we've been very, very lucky of being able to do.
Cool. So, do you have like a sort of time scale as to when the new EP will come out?
No.
Summer. I think summer's probably the vaguest best answer we could give. Maybe a little bit later, maybe a little bit early. It depends, really, I guess. What happens with things opening up, like. There might be, this is all hypothetical, but if, like, say, shows are actually coming back in June, maybe we might want to go, okay, well, we can push something a little bit later in the year, but...
maybe it's just to find the most profitable, well, not profitable, but like the best, the best time to release everything so we can get as much from it as we want to, so we can essentially put more to future as well. As I think we've got to the point as a band where we actually want to just continue writing, continue releasing, and not spend, 6 months bickering at each other about, what essentially is 4 songs.
You said the word bickering there, so who's the one that bickers?
All of us. Apart from Sam. Sam doesn't bicker. No. Sam doesn't get involved. He likes to keep himself nice and quiet, but we all like to bicker.
Yeah, as you noticed, I just sort of hold back until I'm needed, and then I'll jump in and calm the situation down.
Sam is referred to as God in our group chat because he just pops in every now and then, clears all the air, sorts us all out, and then disappears again. That's his role.
As the significantly youngest member of the band, he has the significantly least cynical view on the world, and therefore he's able to make much calmer decisions.
Yes, definitely.
Maybe.
If Sam's a peacemaker, then that's great. That's great. So, do we have a title for this EP? I thought we might
no,
exclusive here. Are we exclusive?
We might have a working title, but I mean, I don't know if we can say it.
No, we've got a title that we refer to it as, but it's not 100% confirmed. Like, there's not artwork done or anything like that. So,
cool. No, that's fine. I was joking there for a wee exclusive. But that's cool. Look forward to seeing what you do. So with Ryan being the vocalist of the band, then does he do all the lyrics for the songs, or do you all drop in things?
If you want to call them lyrics, you are well within your right to do that. Yeah. Yeah. It's just about like the writing process to how it comes together. It's yeah, we kind of build it up around the guitars. We do obviously come with a riff or like a tune in our heads and God knows what. Yeah. And then we let Sam decide what the rhythm of it or whatever it shall be so far. And then when we kind of got the song built, Ryan will do his lyrics around them. And we won't actually know what they are until it gets to kind of recording time. As we just kind of leave him to it. He has a feel for the song and it works. So that's...
Yeah, I think that's what we're kind of looking to change moving forward. Not that it hasn't worked or anything until now. Yeah. I think that's pretty much the way we've done it now, is that Ryan will come in at the end and he pretty much does all the lyrics and, vocal melodies and stuff like that. But I think moving forward, we do want to try and actually, bring him in a bit earlier and kind of work with him, get him, a bit more involved in the earlier parts of the songwriting process. But yeah, I mean, obviously it's worked well for us until now, doing it that way.
Mainly is we do all have an input about what the song wants to do, where we feel it going and stuff. I mean, Jordan tries his best, but yeah. The bassists.
It's definitely a talent to write lyrics. It's definitely something that I couldn't do. So for somebody that takes complete ownership with it and the rest of the band are happy, then go for it,
That doesn't mean to take it up.
This doesn't mean we don't rip on him for it, to be fair.
Oh yeah, we absolutely rip on him for it. I mean, we still quote his lyrics back to him to this day, and it's either like, oh, I didn't even know I said that, or he'll just do a bit of a darker shade of red.
We've got plenty of like misheard lyrics as well, where it sounds like he's saying something completely different, which is quite amusing sometimes. And this, as we were saying, like when we get into the studio, that's normally the first time I've actually heard half of what he's screaming. I'm like, oh, okay.
And we had to sit there and just kind of like look at each other and whisper, like, what did he actually say? Like, it's a lot of fun now. I mean, everyone can take their own interpretation of it.
Yeah. I'm actually wondering if Clashmute are actually bands that don't agree on anything. I've only known you for 15 minutes and I'm already beginning to assume.
I don't know. We like the banter. We like the sort of ins and outs. It keeps us entertained, and it also kind of like helps. I personally think it helps us a little bit with if something is shit. Like one of us will just come to us and say like, "Don't do it. It's crap. Do something completely different," and it kind of pushes us to be a little bit better with what we write, which is I think a big part of it. Especially Sam. I've not been able to keep up with Sam's rhythms since we started this band, but it has helped me become progressively a better guitarist.
I think what the band does really well, to be fair, and this is probably whatever success we have is probably, I personally think is quite largely down to this, which is if there's something which genuinely that someone brings to the table and people don't like it, people will go, don't do it. Like just don't do that idea. Yeah. And if it's a really good idea, we're really quick to praise people and go, that is really good. We need to kind of work something around that, or we need to work around this for a little bit to kind of make it the best it possibly can and make it even better.
Yeah, it's just being a bit tough-skinned, like after.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah, I think you've got to be. It's super important that we have that level of brutal honesty where we can tell each other like, that's not working. Because there'll be plenty of times, especially drum-wise, I'll come up with something that I might think sounds great, and it's like a fancy, whatever I'm doing, drum fill or whatever. Then when you put it in the context of the rest of the band and what everyone else is doing, sometimes
sounds like a jazz fill or something.
Yeah, it's a bit too much or whatever, and that's where you need someone else to be like, stop doing that. Yeah. Oh, this is working, this isn't working. So yeah, I mean, we've got to work together on it, definitely.
Yeah, we've been a lot more ideas, but I mean, every band does. But it is like we are brutally honest with each other, and it is to better ourselves.
Yeah. You've actually answered one or two of my questions for later on, but to be honest with you, I'm quite disappointed in your answer because I was expecting like fisticuffs in the studio and blood on the walls and all that kind of stuff.
No, we're very, very civilized sometimes.
I don't know whether I believe you or not, though.
There's darts in our practice room for a reason.
So was there anything that you've done differently between recording or transitions that you think you'll do differently with the new EP, that you've maybe learned from experience with transitions that you'll maybe do differently with the new EP?
Well, I mean, the first EP was, I think, a majority, apart maybe from Sam, but it was like the first time in a studio, like an actual studio environment for any of us.
Yeah.
And we just sucked. Like, there's no easy way to say it. We just didn't know what we was doing. Went in there with high expectations, expecting just to blurt out whatever crap we could. And yeah, it kind of we just think that there's a lot of bits where we could have just improved, practiced more. I mean, Sam was great, like beyond great. He always is. That's Sam. He's down to the T. But the rest of us were just a bit lax. And yeah, it is. I think every single time we just literally practice songs to death, make sure everything's perfect, make sure we add things that we like, don't add things that we like, and really just keep it as tight as possible.
Yeah.
I think the other thing was about just approaching, that's kind of feeding into really the sort of biggest thing I think we did differently is sort of how we approach the actual going into the studio kind of thing. And that was also influencing that we did shop around like more than we did previously for a studio. We shop around more for mixing and mastering options, but also we were quite quick to kind of go to the producer. Look, we're happy to hear your ideas, and he came up with a few ideas, and some of them were really good, and we decided to use them, and some of the ideas we weren't so keen on, so we kind of had the confidence to push back on, which we didn't have before. So whatever, the kind of the major thing that approach really is sort of the quality control, I think, between the two EPs, which it'll, trust me, when it comes out, it'll sound like a different band's recorded this in comparison to what we recorded before. And I want the next EP after that to be the same difference in quality. Yeah,
we're hoping just to try and get this rhythm going where each thing we release is just better and better and better. There's no denying it. Every time you got to go in, you've got to go in guns blazing and come out with something that was even better than before, because it's how it is.
Yeah. So it sounds as if it's like a brand new Clashmute that's just formed then. But see, when you say about the next release being an EP, what about the next release being an album? Because sometimes you think like with an EP, you've got your 4 songs and you're I just want that wee bit more, whereas an album has a beginning, a middle and an end. And with you guys being prolific songwriters as well, maybe it wouldn't take that long to write another 4 or 5 songs.
I think we could write an album's worth of material pretty quickly. I think it also just sort of depends like what we're kind of feeling, because the last time we recorded Cut Loose, and that was recorded about, I think, a month or 2 months after we actually released the EP, Transitions. And I know we all kind of said we enjoyed that kind of going from recording 6 songs to recording 1 in the studio. Like it's such a much more relaxed environment, and you can really fine tune everything. So after this EP, I don't think we'd want to go in and record another EP, or definitely not another 4 tracks. Not 100%. I don't think we're all set on that idea at this point in time. So that would be one of the options. I could see us maybe going and doing another single or something like that. But I think at this point, we're just kind of keeping those options as open as possible.
A lot we have to think about is, well, go on, Tom.
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, one of the biggest things we learned from like the first EP of trying to do like 6 tracks, and talking about doing an album, like, sounds great, like saying, the structure, and it gives people more songs to listen to and everything like that. The problem wouldn't be, coming up with the material. I'm sure we could easily write an album's worth of songs. What we've realized in terms of, just essentially money putting into the recording process and time and everything, is that, what we find to get the most out of it is when we focus more on the quality as opposed to the quantity. So, we end up writing albums worth of songs, or probably more, to be honest.
Another big bit being just simply being the way that your streaming services, which is the biggest way to get music at the moment, the way they work, which we've spoken to with higher networking bands and bands that are a lot bigger than us, I've literally just said releasing music is constant. You have to be, I think, 7.5 weeks or something stupid. Like every time you release a song, that would be the best algorithm to be. And it's about getting out to more people enjoying our music. We enjoy making it. I mean, I'd happily release singles forever if it was kept on reaching people, get some people more enjoying it, because that itself will become an album worth of songs. Eventually, it is just releasing an album like its own, it's the cost money, it's how many people you'll reach, it is a massive minefield of people shouting, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're still kind of trying to find our audience as well. So at the minute, the important thing, like Pat was just saying, is reaching new people. And I think for quite a small, we are a relatively small, unsigned local kind of band.
Small.
To drop like a 10-track album or something, it just get lost in, the sea of other local bands. Whereas, releasing singles consistently just like keeps people's attention.
Yeah.
Or that's the hope anyway. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks very much for that. So, where's the EP going to be recorded? Have you got an idea who's going to produce it for you and things, or?
It's been recorded at what's the name of the studio? Oh my god, Noise Boy. That's it. It completely slipped my mind. Noise Boy.
Chris Kelly for that. Noise Boy Studios in Salford. Salford, yeah.
Salford, yeah. Salford.
Cool. Do you know who's going to produce it for you?
Say mix and master and all, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know say too much on this. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. I mean,
it's not set in stone just yet. We've got one in mind, but we don't want to say it and then.
No, of course. That's good.
But yeah, it's just because they're quite a cool name that it's one that we really really like, and we're kind of pushing the boat a little bit out to kind of go and get this done by them. So we don't want to say it and then it all go tits up, and then for whatever reason it doesn't get done by them, and then go, damn, we said that on an interview.
Well, I'll look forward to seeing who it is when you put it up in your social media post. Then that's cool. So you released your debut EP Transitions in 2019. So like every other band releasing music at this time, it must be pissing off that you didn't get that much time to promote it in a live front. What touring commitments did you have planned for like last year, or like a UK tour or anything like that, with a support?
We had some quite good like summer shows planned. Like there was about 2 months after lockdown, we had a headline show at the Alma in Bolton, which is one of my favourite venues. And I had Pat Groan then. He's not a fan of he's not a fan of the acoustics in there, but I love the Alma. It's my old.
I'm not a fan of the Alma, mate.
I love the Alma. Fuck you. And then we had
fuck off.
We had some stuff in the Northwest in the summer planned. I think there was an outdoor show at some point planned, which unfortunately didn't happen. And then there was obviously the stuff kind of moving more towards the autumn, like Badgerfest. That was sort of the main stuff that we had planned. And because of the timing of it, we'd had Cut Loose recorded, and that was released literally the last weekend we did gigs in March of last year. And they would have been a good opportunity to promote that. And obviously, if we'd have done these shows, then we could have potentially gotten some physical copies of Transitions done as well, and try to sell a few of those at gigs. So it kind of did ruin a bit of an opportunity we had to kind of go out and go do these shows with 7 songs and kind of a back catalogue for people to sort of dig into. But we're just kind of hopefully with the timing now, we're going to be back in that situation where shows are going to be coming back and we'll have this new EP. But it's all very hypothetical at the moment, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to just bury the old EP and just leave it where it is. We can focus on new stuff. That's maybe keep 1 or 2 of the bangers.
The big opportunity we probably missed was Metal to the Masses. So we were like,
absolutely, yeah.
Through like qualifiers or whatever you want to call them, kind of the run up kind of shows. And I think
we were winners, Sam. Don't sugarcoat it. We were going to be the winners. Don't worry.
We were about to play Bloodstock, but lockdown happened, and that was it. So yeah, Rob again.
Well, Rob,
in all seriousness, we felt very good about our chances this year. The previous year we'd been finalists. We had a really good showing, and that was with only a few gigs on our back as well. And we felt we had a really good chance, and especially at that first gig. It wasn't the best show. It wasn't like there was a couple of hiccups like you get as a live band all the time, but it felt like to me one of our most sort of complete shows where things were starting to really click. Like as a band, like I think we'd kind of managed to
find that niche when performing stuff.
The set list felt very strong in terms of its content and the way it flowed. It felt like we'd really kind of gotten it down in terms of making sure that we were, especially from my point of view, like wasn't too static on stage and sort of interacting with the crowd. And it was a very competitive lineup, to be fair. The heat we were going to be in was going to be it was going to be with Portray the Ruin, Tortured Demon. I can't remember the other two off the top of my head, who were also on it, but they were really, I think they both had really good qualifiers as well.
Yeah.
And we felt like a really good chance of getting through that, which is completely opposite to the year before, where we didn't have as much confidence in going into those gigs.
I think we were more surprised than anybody else in that. Like we were
No, that's true. So yeah, that kind of that felt like it would have been at least one other. Even if we hadn't gone through the next round of Battle of the Masters, we would have had one very good, very competitive gig. Out of that, and then obviously the best case scenario would have been we'd have gone through it, we'd have gone through the other two rounds, I think it would have been, and we would have played Bloodstock. But alas, it's hopefully something for another day. But it is kind of sad. Like I was looking through the drives the other day, and I had a list of all the different gigs we had planned and sort of with dates and venues and stuff, and it's just looking at that, and they all just got kind of wiped out in the space of it feels like it went from 2 weeks of okay, these gigs will probably still happen to, this is gone now. Like, yeah, let's hope the October shows are going to still happen. And now we're at the situation where we're, more optimistic than before, but still looking at those October shows thinking, well, if everything goes on the track it's on now, maybe we'll do them, but, maybe not, who knows?
Yeah, certainly when I was speaking to bands last year, they were just doing 2020 copy, 2021 paste, but you don't know if you'll be doing 2022 paste. You just don't know.
Yeah.
But it's, like you say, with the hope of the vaccine on the horizon, then do you have maybe plans towards the end of this year? I know you've got Oktoberfest, which will not Oktoberfest, Badgerfest.
Wish we had Oktoberfest. That'd be awesome.
Sorry about that.
That's fine.
But yeah, but I don't know if will you have like an EP launch show or something like that planned?
It's difficult to sort of, that's difficult to sort of to judge because we don't know exactly. Like if things are going to happen in June, then like maybe that's something we could work towards. But the shows we've kind of got at the back end of this year, which are all kind of like passed over, those are sort of some pretty solid shows. Like we've obviously got Badgerfest. There's Drumming Up Change with Badger as well. I went to the other event he did for that, and that was a lot of fun to go as a spectator. So it'd be really cool to be involved in that. And then there's also Wedstock, which is for James and Jane Bennett, who are the 0161 guys. Yeah. And that's like another gig in September. So really, like the hope I've got is my main sort of focus in terms of gigs is those shows in terms of having an audience at least. Yeah. Because that would be a brilliant 3 shows to close out the year with everything, especially like with an audience where people can interact as much as they could do 15 months ago. So.
Yep. But am I right in saying though that this weekend you've got a streaming event? So
yes.
How did that all come about, and where's it going to happen?
I think it's something the 016 put together. They've done a few of them so far, and I think last month was unfortunately cancelled, which had a Soul Shift, and
they were on it. Yeah, it was about 8 or 9 bands that were on that one.
Yeah,
I can't remember any of the other bands. I'm so sorry, anyone that is on it. Betrayal, maybe. I don't know. Soul Shift, though, we like Soul Shift. It's fine. So yeah, there was a few bands on there. Unfortunately, cancelled, and I think they've split this one into 2 separate events.
Yes, they have.
Forward, which is, I mean, it's good. It's just something to keep your spirits up in the last quarter of lockdown 3.9. Whatever.
That's taking place at Red Wall Studios in Bury, which these live stream gigs, I think, especially if you're a metal band, like metal bands do benefit from being in an environment where there's distortion and there's echo, and sometimes when like you see these live stream gigs, like I've seen bands who will go and tour, and like professional bands who tour big venues, and they put a live stream gig on, and it something just doesn't click, or like the sound is like really dry and quite tinny. The ones from not all of them, but the ones at Red Wall Studios that I've seen have the best audio out of like any of the like local promoters who are putting one. They've got better audio than some of like the professional bands who've put these on. Like really, really good. So it was when we first saw them, I was sort of pushing for like, can we please ask about doing one of these? Like this would be really cool if we got offered to do one of these. It's nice to kind of get back into that, to preparing for a gig thing of like, we have a set list, let's try and get a rough idea of timing. I'm a big fan of the admin side of putting a live show together.
That's all he does. He doesn't actually do anything else. It's just admin.
All I do is I turn up, my guitarist plugs in my amp head for me, and I play opens for 45 minutes, and I write the order of the songs. That's all I do.
That is effective. Yeah, that's all you do.
I pick out perturbator intros for us to open our gigs too.
You organised a Zoom meeting, I believe.
Nope.
Nope.
That's actually something I was going to ask. See, because of COVID, has it made you look at the more business side of the band more, like keeping the word out there and promoting yourselves?
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, go on, Sam.
You've asked us quite a lot about, what plans you might have for gigs and stuff like that. And like, for me personally, I think for all of us, like gigs are something that we've just had to push to the back of our heads. Yeah. It's easy to kind of get your hopes up and look, we're a live band. We love that live environment. And the sooner we could get back to that, the better. But in reality, we've just had to focus on, the things that we can be doing now to make this, this months long stretch of time off as kind of productive as we can. Yeah. A lot of it has been like, how we're going to push this EP online. How can we get it sounding the best we can with like mixing, production, and everything like that. It's felt like a very different kind of band to be in over the past sort of year or so.
More organised. Yeah, somewhat organised is a better.
I would never ever describe as organised ever, Pat.
That's good.
We had a spreadsheet once. We did a spreadsheet for something. I vaguely remember like looking at that, not
taking any of the information from it.
It's going to be, everyone that owes money to you, I imagine, is that spreadsheet. Yeah.
He said one who owes money to Ryan. That's the spreadsheet I've got. I've hidden it away somewhere that we just can't find, so we'll never know.
Great stuff, Chris. Hi there, we're back once again. Unfortunately, Patrick has had to leave us at the moment, so we're just here with Jordan and Sam. To be honest with you, I didn't like him that much anyway, so that's fine. Don't tell him that. So I see you guys are playing Badgerfest in October this year, so you're looking forward to playing this gig then?
Definitely. So yeah, can't wait.
Yeah. So is it something that you've been looking forward to, and is there also like other bands in the bill that you're looking forward to seeing?
Yeah, there's I'm just looking at the lineup. I'm not even going to pretend that I'm not looking at the lineup right now. I needed a reminder because there's about 30 bands on it. Sam was lucky enough to actually play it a couple of years ago in 2019 with Portrayal of Ruin, who was his whole band. And me and Pat actually went along to go see him and went down for the day on the Saturday. The setup Badger had is like, it's just a testament to how well organised Badger is as a promoter. It was such a good little layout, and the Breadshed is a great venue. Like when we played there for Metal to the Masses, the sound was really good. Like one of the best venues we've done, I think, personally.
Oh, definitely.
So combining those two, it was like, oh man, I'm really jealous that Sam got to play this.
It's a lot of fun. It's a great stage. It's like you're saying, it's a great setup. The sound, everything's brilliant, and like the whole day just ran like clockwork. It's like there's basically 2 stages, and the band finishes on one stage, and straight away you get like a minute, or not even that probably. And there's another band will start playing, and the crowd doesn't really have to move; they just sort of turn and look from one to the other. And it's just like non-stop metal for just days at a time, and it's brilliant. Yeah.
What I like as well is like the way that Badger kind of laid out the lineup last year was like there was there's some like really solid like metal bands playing there. There was Sworn Amongst, there was Jonestown, there was like Portrayal of Ruin, but then there was they kind of intermixed that with stuff which was sort of really kind of the other end of spectrum of like what you would expect to see at a festival. Like there was a band called Working Man, who were like one of the most bizarre experiences of my life. They were so much fun, like in the middle of seeing a load of metal bands. Like it just fits really well as like a palate cleanser in the middle of all that. But for this year's lineup, like as I said, I'm just looking at the moment. Like there's a few bands that we've played with before, like Harbinger. There's Red Method. There's a band I really liked when we played with the Alma called Iron Altar. They're all bands that I'm really looking forward to checking out again. But there's also like Speed On.
God Eater still down to play.
Yes, they are. God Eater are still on there. Yeah.
I interviewed God Eater a few months ago. They're a good bunch of guys. I also interviewed Iron Altar as well. So it's good that there's a healthy Scottish contingent coming down for this as well.
We saw when Iron Altar played the Alma. I remember I was off about, and then I caught like the last 2 or 3 songs of them, and I was like, oh my God, I really wish I checked out the full 30, 40 minutes these guys had done, because it was like proper, especially in a venue like the Alma is. It's like proper sludgy sound, and it just fit there so well. And I was like, I cannot wait to see them like tear Breadshed a new one.
Yeah. There was a stream gig a couple of weeks ago, and I was like Dog Tired, Iron Altar, Disposable, and Iron Altar were just stunning. As our Dog Tired.
I missed that.
That was just a couple of weeks ago. That's brilliant. So it's been building up quite a bit of a reputation about itself. I think you made the point, it's the diversity. You would think I'm more of a death metal fan, so I'm looking out for the death metal bands. But then you see somebody like Working Man, and you can't help stop and laugh and enjoy the set. You know, it's just it caters for all genres, but everybody enjoys the show, every single show. Yeah. You know,
it's a really good testament to what kind of a scene we've got in Manchester. Like, it seems to be like there's a really healthy sense of community, and I came from Sheffield, and I think they do have that sense of community, but maybe it's not quite as prominent, or maybe it's not quite as evident when you go to a gig like that, or maybe I've just not seen it. It's also possible, but like
that with the kind of variety they have in terms of different bands on the same stage, same lineup, one after the other. Yeah. It's not like it goes from one genre to another. It is literally like, complete mix match. But I like that personally. Yeah. I think that variety makes it really entertaining.
Yeah. It really makes like bands like Mortishead, who played as well that day, I remember, like they really stood out as like a band who were just sort of like really competent performers, but they've got like the element of like a little bit of theatrics in terms of what they do. Like it just fits really well when you've got a day, because if it's just 9-10 bands playing back to back between those 2 stages, at some point you're going to go, okay, I would like a palate cleanser of some description at some point. You can't listen to metal all the time, unfortunately.
Yes, very true, very true. But so how did you get to know John Badger? Did John see you at a show and he said, would you like to play Badgerfest, or was it, how did it come about?
We applied, but we knew Badger from the Brunswick Mill. He practiced with a few bands in the Bone Rooms where we also practice. So we just come in and say hi, and we met him at a few of the gigs that we did kind of earlier on. And then the first gig we actually did for him was we did a gig at the Star and Garter, and I can never remember how to pronounce their name. I've always pronounced it Chrysler, but I think it's Chrysler.
Yes.
They are shit hot. They're so good. And like for us to play with a band like that, and it was also Deified and Red Method, to play with like 3 bands like that, and we were only, I think that was like a 7th or 8th gig or something. That was the opportunity that Badger kind of afforded us. And he's afforded us a few opportunities like that. And he's really good resource for us in terms of bouncing ideas off, and kind of being someone who's, being around the block, if you like, really, in terms of playing bands and promoting shows and stuff. And then when he was doing the applications for Badgerfest, we were like, right, we're putting an application in right away to do something like this. Like, we'll make sure we do this the right way. And, he was thankful enough to say, yeah, you're on it. And it's great. It'll sort of kind of fit, and also then we got Drumming Up Change a few months later, which would be a fun gig, and Sam can fuck off and get pissed for 40 minutes while he plays this.
Although I will warn you, every other band that I've been in, right, that I've then like watched from the crowd after having been in the band, every time, this has happened maybe 4 or 5 times, where I've been like, what are they, what's going on with these guys? So they're not break that trend, but not always. Sometimes I look at them and I'm like really impressed. Like, to be honest, with Betrayal, like then the new drummers come in and I'm like, well,
exactly. You'll get to see us with our new drummer Badger.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely coming down for it. I've got my ticket. I'm definitely coming down for it, so I'm very much looking forward to it. I've done my work as well. I'm interviewing all the bands in Badgerfest, so I am not doing anything on the 3 days apart from have a wee beer.
Nice. That's a good one. I'm going to warn you now. When we went, I don't know if you were there the last time it ran, but they had an absolutely lethal cider on there, which I had about 3 or 4 pints of, and I think it had. It was like, looking back on the Facebook group after, it was like reading Vietnam War stories of people who drunk too many of this cider, because it was so smooth, it went back so quickly, and it was like 6%, And you just people who were like, yeah, I was on the floor after like 3 or 4 drinks. So I'll warn you now, if that's on, I'll be like that anyway. After we've played, obviously.
Sammy's a bit of a one-can Dan, isn't he? He's just.
Oh yeah, you don't have to tell me.
I've got stories about you, Sam. Don't you worry. I'm not mentioning them on here though.
I've only got a couple more questions left for you guys. I know I've taken up a lot of your time and things like that, but I do appreciate it. So before, I'm maybe showing my age a wee bit here, but before the internet, magazines and fanzines were the places to find out about new bands and trends, but now publications have been replaced with thousands of websites catering for all genres. So do you think that some of the passion has been lost, or do you think that the internet has been a good thing for music and a good thing for Clashmute?
Oh, we could talk about this for a while.
Yeah, I can offer my old kind of Dodder answer, if you like, Sam, being a few years older than you, and then you can maybe offer a younger kind of perspective.
Yeah, the kids of today answer. Okay.
So I when I was, I don't know, like when it was like 2008 or something, when I was in school, like it was reading copies of Metal Hammer and finding out about download and stuff, and that was kind of like you read about that and it becomes like that's your mecca. That's the kind of the pilgrimage you have to make, to go check out new music. And you kind of find out through, word of mouth and reading through magazines and that sort of thing. Like the perspective I get, and it's not a negative or positive either way, is that obviously through the internet, you've got that access to things. So like, I feel now that it's way easier for me to kind of access a community of people who like the same kind of music as me and get recommendations and go and check that music out. It's also a lot cheaper because I don't have to buy CDs. I can check things out on Spotify. But there is sort of like, I don't know if it's just nostalgia, but there's a little part of me which yearns for kind of the days of like, okay, you'd get a Metal Hammer, you'd get a CD and you'd listen to it and it's got like 10, 11 tracks, all from bands you didn't hear of before you put it in your CD. And it's just like kind of, you go in completely blind. There's nothing which taints that sort of experience unless you've heard of that band before by chance. So I do feel it's a little bit more difficult to kind of go into bands, go into like the experience of listening to music and kind of experiencing different types, like kind of objectively. Yeah. But that's kind of my subjective kind of old Dodder experience. And I'll pass you over to Sam for more modern answer.
No, I've not really thought about it like that. For me, I was thinking like, the internet has done many things, whether you like it or you don't. I think the most obvious one in terms of music, both from the perspective of someone that's in a band and someone that listens to loads of music and goes and likes to go and watch other bands. The barrier for entry for both sides of that are now way lower. So anyone in the basement can record something, upload it, and it's on the internet. Which can be a great thing in a lot of ways. That back in the day, back in Jordan's time, you would have had to pay a load of money and like go to a proper studio just to get some kind of recording. And then like, how are you going to get it out there? How are people going to hear it? Yeah. These days you don't have that problem, but you now have the other problem of like, there's so much competition out there that, there's just endless bands that you just get lost in a sea of a load of other bands trying to do the same thing. But obviously I can't speak for the time before the internet because I didn't really grow up in it.
You're showing off now.
Yeah, but for me, I think that can only be a good thing in a lot of ways because it means that only the bands that really do something different actually manage to stand out from that crowd. Yeah. And those are the bands which you'll come across at Download and wherever else. Yeah. So I think the rising tide is going to make the bands at the top are just going to be way better. Yeah. Is the hope. But yeah, I mean, for local bands, it can be really tough to kind of stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other side of that, I think, is with stuff like the 0161, for example, like, you kind of produce something and you can kind of instantly, we make a music video, we can, I can just go, I'm just going to personally share this now in that group. And, you might get 10 or 11 people who go, oh, wow, this is really good. And they didn't hear of that before then. I didn't really have the experience of being in a band before or anything like that before kind of the internet was a resource we could use like that. I don't know how we would have gotten that music out. And I guess that's kind of like, well, you would have found out if you'd have been around then. But like, I do think you can kind of, it's a resource. It's a resource for bands like us. Like, it's very competitive. And there's been times when I've looked at like the stuff on 0161 and, for example, And, you know, we maybe got something planned for a few days that we're going to release, and you see another band release something, and it's like, it almost feels a little bit competitive, even though it's all just local people kind of making music that they're passionate about. But it's, you know, you're all kind of fighting for bandwidth instead of column space in a magazine. Yeah. It's like the game changed, but it's still the same in a weird way. But I do like the fact that you can access that kind of captive audience in that sort of way. It sounds lazy the way I put it, but I like the fact that you can create something and there's not this eternal struggle to get one person to listen to it. That you can get, you know, you might only get 10 people to listen to it, but it's 9 more people than you would have maybe gotten 10 years ago.
Yeah, there's somewhat of a community there that, you know, it's people that you already know interested in this kind of music. Yeah. And I was just thinking then, like, imagine lockdown, you know, without the internet. Even music aside, that sounds terrifying to me. But when you think about, you know, music and like us as a band, there's pretty much nothing we'd be able to do realistically. Like, you know, we wouldn't have this live stream gig. You know, it's obviously, like I say, it's a double-edged sword. But I think at the minute, you know, for the past year, it's been all we can focus on is using the internet to try and get ourselves out there, essentially.
Just to mention, like, just as a big advocate of really of sort of these, you know, online communities and kind of online resources to local bands like us, like we went into, so this is the timescale we had was we released the single Cut Loose on, I think it was March the 7th or something like that, and then we played a gig that night, and then we played Metal to the Masses on March the 9th, and then the last gigs took place within 3 weeks of then, like in the country. It was 2 or 3 weeks, and we felt almost quite lucky because we were like, well, we've got something out now that people will have time to listen to in Cut Loose, and we've got like a video that people can watch. And then it was kind of a month or two down the line, and then we thought, okay, we've not done a t-shirt design in a while, let's do a t-shirt design. And that sold out, and you know, it was 50 or so that we got printed. But for us, like for a local band, we were like, that's amazing. And we actually did it as pre-orders, so it was basically people put their orders in. We knew what sizes to order, and this is really boring in terms of finances, but like that, we basically covered the cost of ordering it before we'd actually ordered the shirts, if that makes sense. Like, that was insane to us, and that's not something we could have done at all without an internet. Like,
sure,
if we were
wanting to show the support, you know, everyone knows, like, you know, I've bought loads of bands merch at the minute because I feel, especially, I mean, obviously for touring bands, it's a different problem. You know, like if your income is based off, you need to be able to play live shows, and now is a horrendous time to be a musician, you know, from what I can tell anyway. So it's great that a lot of people seem to want to show the support and, you know, buy, you know, the favorite local bands merch, and, you know, that's something that's great to see. So massive, you know, respect, thanks to anyone that out there that does that for us. And
you might be buying our merch again soon.
Yeah, because I noticed that everything on your website's actually sold out. So
it won't be for long.
Yes,
that won't be for long.
Yes, yeah. But you've definitely raised a lot of valid points here. I mean, I grew up in an era where we were all saying CDs should be burned. You know, we used to, like, in the early 90s, late 80s, you were sending like £2 or £3 away, and a couple of days later you'll get a cassette demo through the letterbox, you know, and you'll get a letter from the band, you open the envelope and the stickers would fly out and stuff like that. But now you go on, now you go on streaming websites and you listen to a band 10 seconds, oh no, that's pish, dismiss that, go on to the next band. But when you actually had the demo tape and you were like, don't know if I like it, but you know what, I paid money for that, I'm going to listen to it again and listen to it again and then make your mind up. I think it's too dismissive now because there's so many bands out there now.
Yeah. You know? I agree with that. I think there's almost like a level of commitment you have with buying an album. I remember, but with my birthday money, once buying Carcass's first album and having no idea. I thought all of their stuff sounded like Heartwork, so I bought that, and then, oh my god, it sounds like someone's just left a bass amp on for 9 seconds and gone, that's a track, and it's called whatever, Genital Grinder or whatever it was called. Like, I had to stomach that for like a month or two, going, no, this is good, I like this kind of music, until I could finally admit, like, this just isn't for me. Like, there is kind of like, I think you are more likely to give something a second chance when you've kind of made that initial commitment a little bit. It is also the thing with the internet as well, is being put in something else. put something out, obviously, is that people are more likely to shoot something back. And we've talked, quite a bit about, transitions, our EP, and us not being big fans of it. We are genuinely not, but like we wish it was something different, or it's not quite what we would have wanted it to be. But ultimately, we have had like not a lot, but we've had some comments which have sort of validated that a little bit, and it's kind of that's something which wouldn't have happened, 10, 12, 15 years ago or whatever. So
it's to come up to a band face to face and be like, not a big fan, then it is someone behind the screen to type away anonymously. But that again can be a good thing and can be a bad thing. So it's
Well, listen, guys, I appreciate that. I've just got one last thing to ask you then. So, Jordan, you're the bassist of the band. So, what bass do you have? What setup do you use for the EP?
So I have a Schecter Omen 5, I think it was. It was quite a recent purchase. It replaced an old Yamaha RBX with dodgy electronics I'd been trundling away with for a while. It was DI for the EP. It was actually Pat who tracked most of it. I'll put my hands up and admit that it was just a decision we made to get it tracked a little bit quicker. So yeah, and at the moment I'm using a not very good amp head along with a big muff pedal, which is Frankenstein into the side.
So is your bass 4 or 5 string?
5 string at the moment, just for getting the tension right in the neck. The Yamaha was a 4 string, and it had gigs where it was so good, but it was never as consistent as the bog standard 5 string Eastwood I've had for the last 3 years. And I find the 5 string weirdly easier to play on some of our more technical stuff. I guess it's just, I'm not quite sure why I find it that way, but I find that a little bit easier to play at times. It's a really nice bass as well.
So Sam,
I'm happy with my investment.
Sam, do you think he's just showing off with the extra string then?
Oh yeah, he only used the one. I don't know what the other 4 are for.
Well, Sam, we've only got 5 minutes left again. So tell us about your drum kit setup.
Right, I'll try and make it quick. I mean, if anyone is really interested in drums and wants to ask me drum questions, I'm happy to talk drums anytime. Drop the message or whatever. But yeah, basically a Mapex kit that I use. It's a Viper. It is actually limited edition. It looks a little bit like the shirt I'm wearing, weirdly enough. Kind of, a little bit.
Yeah.
It looks beautiful. Mainly Zildjian cymbals. And then various bits of hardware and stuff. I'm not going to go into crazy details, but yeah, I'm having to restrain myself because I can talk drums for hours.
Have you managed to find the snare sound that you like, or has it been quite difficult? Are you happy with it, with the recording that you're doing?
Yeah. So I mean, I recently got a new snare. I just got a Black Panther recently, which I'm really happy with. But I didn't actually use that on the EP recording, mainly just because. It's a common thing I get in the studio where, like, do I bring my own gear and, like, force the engineer to get used to mixing something that he's maybe not as used to? I just chose to go with what he was more comfortable with. So he's got a snare there, which is brilliant. I can't remember the exact model now. But yeah, it's a really nice snare, and we got a sound we're happy with. So yeah, that's the main thing.
Excellent. Well, listen, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure interviewing you. It's definitely not going to be the last time, and certainly when the EP does come out, send it over to Moshville Times, and we'll certainly review it, and we'll do our bit to promote it. I'm also part of a podcast team. I can get your single played on radio shows both here and in the US. So any new material, just send it to me, and I'll get it sorted. But I mean, I definitely liked your last single. So if the new stuff is even better than that, then yeah, I'll be looking forward.
It's heavier.
I think you prefer it.
Good.
Got suspicion.
I mentioned this on the last interview we had. Like, it's obviously every band says like, "Oh yeah, our new stuff's like really, really good," and all this kind of like boring hyperbole. There is one song on the EP which is actually the most proud of anything. I think I can say pretty confidently that everyone involved is like really fucking proud of it. Good. And it's gonna knock some socks off. So
good. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing it, and I'll see you at Badgerfest if not before. I mean, who knows? You may be able to do a few dates around the UK or something like that, and come up to Glasgow or something.
Yeah, I would love to do that, definitely.
But I'll see you in Manchester anyway in October. But delighted to meet you guys, and I'll catch up with you soon. Cheers, guys.
Yeah.
Thanking you.
Thanks.
Cheers.
It's been great.